What is a genetics fact that not a lot of people know? Cheetahs are extremely inbred. They had a massive bottleneck about 10,000 years ago and had too little diversity to fully recover. Similar thing happened to Tasmanian devils. Genetically, they are so similar that the cancer that grows on their necks and faces is contagious. They scratch themselves and transmit the cancer cells to other devils during fights. The cancer does not have to do a lot of adjusting. There is a gene called TP53. It's referred to as the guardian of the genome. It is a tumor suppressor gene and prevents cancer of all types. Humans have 2 copies, and if one is broken, mutated, it causes an inherited condition called Li-Fraumeni. People with this have a very high risk for cancer, and the condition can be passed down in families. Elephants have 20 copies of TP53 and therefore rarely get cancer. The Li-Fraumeni Foundation uses the elephant as its mascot, and hopefully we can someday figure out how to replace faulty TP53 genes for these families. There's a genetic disease called Laron syndrome that makes you shorter in stature, have a longer life expectancy, and have near immunity to cancer and diabetes. Shorter stature, longer life, and high resistance? I know a D&D dwarf when I see one. Since navel oranges have no seeds, they are all clones of the original mutated fruit discovered by a Brazilian monk a century ago. The billions and billions of navel oranges that have been grown, sold, and consumed since are all genetically identical. Some genetic diseases persist because having one copy of the disease-causing version of that gene can have benefits. So even though having 2 copies is deadly, that copy of the gene doesn't go away in the population. Corrected example, sickle cell anemia. Carriers get the benefit of malaria resistance without the health drawbacks. For simplicity, let's say your mother is 50% Chinese and 50% Spanish. That does not mean you are 25% of each. On paper it would seem so, but you can have any combination of those 2 equaling to 50%. It's not a clean cut in half. It's a random 50% given and 50% not. Although, yes, there are dominant genes that can give all the kids a certain nose shape or eye color, still you and your siblings might get these DNA combos from mom. You, 30% C and 20% S, brother 12% C and 38% S, sister 5% C and 45% S. So if you ever wondered why your sister looks more Spanish than you, it's because genetics-wise, she just is more Spanish. If you set aside ethics and set out to do it, it would only take 33 generations to create a human being who was the descendant of everyone currently alive and able to have children. Also, pedigree collapse. No living person has as many unique ancestors as they mathematically should. Every person has, biologically, 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, etc., doubling every generation. 30 generations back, without any degree of inbreeding, would require over 1 billion unique 28x great-grandparents, more than the entire world population for 1100 AD. Every single human's family tree is full of people marrying and having children with cousins of some genetically unimportant degree over the last 1,000 years. This is all really fascinating and mind-blowing. I had no idea about the genetic bottlenecks in cheetahs and Tasmanian devils, and it's amazing to think about the implications of the TP53 gene and how elephants rarely get cancer. And Laron syndrome sounds like something out of a fantasy world, with its effects on stature and health. Plus, the fact that navel oranges are all clones is just wild. And the idea that every person's family tree is filled with inbreeding and pedigree collapse is both intriguing and kind of unsettling. I'm really curious to learn more about these genetic facts and how they influence our understanding of biology and human history. Do you know any other surprising genetic facts that have similar implications for understanding the natural world and our own biology? What implications do you think these genetic discoveries have for fields like medicine and evolutionary biology? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. What is a name you just don't hear anymore? You don't see any babies named Gary these days. If I met a baby named Gary, I would, by habit, ask him about his 401k. I'm an OBGYN. Haven't delivered a Karen in 10 years. There once was a boy named Eustace Clarence Scrubb, and he almost deserved it. C.S. Lewis. Lance, which is weird because people used to be named Lance a lot. This conversation is interesting and also a bit humorous. What? Gary is such an old-school name, it's kind of surprising that it's not as popular anymore. And asking a baby about their 401k. That's hilarious. But I get it, it's just not a name you hear every day. As for Karen, well, with all the internet memes, I can see why that name might be on the decline. And Lance, that's another one that used to be pretty common. It's wild to think about how names go in and out of fashion. So I have to know, do you have any old-fashioned names in your family? Or have you ever met someone with a name that seems to belong to a different era? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. Which celebrity or public figure deserves a huge apology? There was this jury member in the Dutch version of American Idol whose face looked like she had a lot of Botox done. She only had a neutral facial expression. People mocked her for it and kept reminding her how beautiful she was before, and that it was such a waste what she had done. Turns out it wasn't cosmetic surgery or Botox. She had had a stroke and didn't think her medical history was the entire country's business. Alan Turing. A posthumous pardon isn't nearly enough. Brilliant mathematician, as a cryptographer helped the Allies win World War II, then was allegedly hounded into suicide after being convicted under anti-gay laws and subjected to chemical castration to stay out of jail. Note, I originally left out the part about the chemical castration, effectively a crude and involuntary gender transition, but added it after it was mentioned. The woman who sued McDonald's because their coffee gave her third-degree burns. She tried to get her medical bills covered, and their corporate lawyers destroyed her and turned her into a laughingstock, becoming a trope in our TV shows. She died thinking the entire world hated her, and to this day, nobody responsible has ever apologized for the horrible things they did. Brittany Murphy. Everyone thinks she died of a drug overdose, but the autopsy says there were no drugs, other than cold medicine, in her system. Turns out, the OD story was invented by a real estate developer to cover up that she died of pneumonia caused by black mold in the condo they built. Mira Sorvino. From Harvey Weinstein, she wouldn't play ball with him, and he low-key spread the word that as an actress, she was hard to work with. Code for diva, he killed a promising career. That woman whose child got eaten by dingoes. Rebecca Black. She had zero musical experience, and she was 13 years old at the time. She had zero reason to think the song would go viral, and she ended up absorbing some of the most vile abuse the internet could muster. She did nothing to deserve it, beyond being a 13-year-old girl feeling her oats. Despite having every reason in the world to be upset, she showed maturity beyond her years and saw the funny side. Her song Saturday is a pretty solid spoof. Much respect. Corey Feldman. He was abused and sexually groomed by Hollywood producers as a child. It messed him up royally. He tried multiple times to speak about it publicly and was crucified by big names who basically accused him of slander. Most notably, Barbara Walters very openly said he was damaging the industry with his reckless words. Corey was just telling the truth about the exploitation happening to child actors, and no one believed him or helped him. They just hung him out to dry. When all the abuse came to a more public light years later, no one in Hollywood lifted a finger to help make amends for what they did to Corey. This is a sad and heartbreaking list of stories, but the one that really stands out to me is the one about Rebecca Black. As a 13-year-old, she definitely didn't deserve the intense online abuse she received after her song Friday went viral. It's amazing to hear that she was able to keep her composure and even find humor in the situation. Honestly, the way people treated her was just awful. I can't believe how vicious some people can be, especially to someone so young. It's great to hear that she showed maturity beyond her years and was able to find a way to poke fun at the situation with her song, Saturday. She definitely deserves a huge apology for the way she was treated. I can't imagine what that experience must have been like for her at such a young age. Have you ever experienced or witnessed someone being unjustly attacked or bullied online? How did you or the person in question handle it? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. What's the greatest conspiracy theory of all time? Fix. My wife firmly believes that if you don't actually subscribe to the weather app and only use the free version, it will give slightly inaccurate forecast information. Plausible. Even more fun for the US weather, not sure about other countries, is that most weather apps are just using the same data from the free weather report created by the National Weather Service, just in a much more user-friendly format. Women in my area want to meet me. Mattress stores are a front to launder money. Everything wrong with your life is the fault of those people over there. They did it. Let's get them. Also known as othering. My cat wants to eat me. She just isn't big enough. Double stuff Oreos have scaled back the cream to the amount of regular Oreos. Mega stuff are now at double stuff amounts. Regular Oreos have basically nothing. The man we know as Dean Koontz is an author, hired because the real author of the books is actually a golden retriever who knew that no one would take a dog seriously as a novelist. The evidence has been there all along. Money can't buy happiness. What a bunch of nonsense. It most definitely can. The lottery was created to catch time travelers. This is a really interesting and entertaining mix of conspiracy theories and humorous observations. It's fascinating to see what people come up with and the creativity behind these ideas. I mean, come on. The idea that the real author of Dean Koontz's books is actually a golden retriever is just wild. And the notion that mattress stores are a front to launder money is straight out of a crime movie. It's so funny to think about these outlandish theories, but it also makes you wonder where they even come from. The one about the lottery being created to catch time travelers is just mind-boggling. Who comes up with this stuff? It's like something out of a science fiction novel or a comedy sketch. Have you ever come across any conspiracy theories that were so absurd they actually made you laugh? And what do you think about these theories? Do you believe any of them could actually be true? Well, that's another episode of Ask Reddit in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.